Hello and welcome to today's episode for the Lada Riva. Hello and welcome to Quarterlights, your car brochure channel, the channel that brings you car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in car brochures, just generally looking back on cars gone by and bringing back those memories, watch a bit of the episode. Please do consider subscribing. That will always be free. Anyway, Ladas today. So last week we looked at the Lada Samara from Canada. This week we're going to look at the Lada Riva again. Riva. I mustn't get those two mixed up. The Lada Riva, of course, was the four-wheel drive. The Lada Riva we're looking at today, although I shouldn't even call it that, to be honest with you. This is a Canadian brochure, so we should be calling it the Lada Signet. Anyway, let's throw that on the board. So here it is then, the Lada Signet for Canada. I'm calling it a brochure. I think I'm a bit kind calling it a brochure, really. It's just a leaflet, to be honest with you, and quite a thin leaflet at that, so it really is a surprise that it's actually survived. And really the only reason I'm really including this in our brochure reviews is, for me, growing up in the UK, obviously the Lada Riva was everywhere. Sort of like your very budget, basic car. Very little money. You got quite a bit for very little money, particularly if you got the estate or wagon version. But I always remember those. But interestingly, for the Canadian one, we can certainly see its different specification, isn't it? Look at the wheels. Anyway, let's have a zoom in. So yeah, look at those wheels with white wall tyres. I presume that's a wheel trim, but we'll have a look at the specifications later. But yeah, it looks like we've got a white wall tyre on there. We've got the typical Lada Riva wipers at the front, which actually would have been quite handy in Canada in the winter time, actually. And then we've obviously got extra little side lights there for different lighting specification in a different country. And then also rather interestingly is this sort of side stripe, which actually looks really nice in this sort of beige colour with this side stripe going down the side. And again, we've got an extra little side light on there as well. And then of course, sorry for the squeaky camera, all of the family roof rails there in sort of like a shiny bright work, which is nice. And we've even got a sunroof. High specification, isn't it? But yeah, as Lada Rivas go, and my camera's just struggling to get out into focus, unfortunately, for whatever reason. It's obviously too fancy a car for my camera. But yes, as Lada Rivas go, this one is the one you wanted, isn't it? It's pretty high specification, and I must admit I did always like the wagon or estate version. I think that was always the one to get. I think it was always overshadowed by Skoda. I think the smart money bought you a Skoda if you was really wanted a brand new car and didn't want to spend a lot, but still basic motoring, all the same. And I certainly, in some ways, I find these more interesting today than I did when they was out. Looks like we got a number plate on the front. Just about making out there, so Ontario number plate on this one. Like I said, this particular brochure, it doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of anything more than this front image, which is certainly a nice one. But I wanted to include it, like I say, just have a look to see how the sort of specs differs from what we remember in the UK. The other side shows the specifications, so let's have a look at that now. So the leaflet on the other side is showing what standard features we get in Canada and sort of the engine specs as well. Let's start with the standard features though. So standard, we get a 3-year 80,000 kilometre warranty and a 5-year anti-rust perforation warranty. Now, I do remember the warranties were pretty good in the UK, but I can't really remember what they were. But I seem to remember they were pretty good. Electronic ignition, front power disc brakes, rear drum brakes, rectangular quartz halogen headlights, headlamp washer wiper system, standard, backup lights, rear fog lights, rear window defroster, rear window washer wiper, full lift up rear door, full wheel covers, so even though they look like they're fancy, they are just wheel covers, but quite the wheel covers they are. We get body side moulding, we get a 2-speed heater and ventilation flow through system, and a 2-speed electric windshield washer wiper. Even that alone, it's quite a high spec, isn't it? For what would have been, like I say, a very budget car. It continues though by telling us we get gauges for fuel, temperature, voltage, warning lights for handbrakes and brake fluid, warning lights for oil pressure, warning lights for fuel, manual choke with warning lights, remote headlight pitch adjuster, steering column mounted turn signals, lights and washer wiper control, centre console, cigarette lighter, ashtrays front and rear, day-night mirror, glove box, dash mounted parcel tray, interior courtesy lights, door mounted safety reflector, 3-point inertia seat belts front and rear, fold away rear seat, mat pockets on all door interiors, passenger grab handles, reclining front bucket seats, adjustable headrests, remote control left rear view mirror, remote control right rear view mirror, deluxe velveteen upholstered door panels, carpeting, velveteen upholstery. I'm not even sure what velveteen is, to be honest. Comprehensive toolkit with tyre gauge, full-size spare tyre, a roof rack, and steel belted radial tyres. So really, this is remember, we have to remember this is a very budget orientated car, so they certainly threw the equipment on there. Kind of missed the important top title there. Reminder, this is called the Lada Signet in Canada, 5-door station wagon. And it also tells you at the top here, it says, it's everything you ever wanted in a wagon and more. Whether you're getting away from it all or just getting there, you'll have all the room you need and then some. With the great list of features and an unbeatable price, what more could you ask for? And then further down, then it does show the mechanical specifications, telling me it's a 1.5 litre engine, 4-cylinder. So it's exactly 1458 cc, maximum performance 83 SAE, horsepower at 5600 RPM, maximum torque 12 kgfm at 3400 RPM. Fuel consumption, city 10.6 litres per 100 kilometres. Highway is 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres. Combined is 9.1 litres for every 100 kilometres. Transmission speed, yeah, we get a 5-speed box, so 5 forward, 1 reverse, fully synchromesh. Looks like we get an automatic option as well. Gives you the gear ratios then talk about the brakes. I'm just going to move the camera over. Dual circuit braking system with load control braking power distribution. Front power assisted discs, rear self-adjusting drums, power assisted. We get anti-lock-up proportioning valve and handbrake acting on the rear wheels. Tells us the wheels there, so all steel rims, and then we've got that sort of like wheel cover on top. So we'll move, what is it talking about now? Oh, suspension, of course. Front independent suspension with unequal length A arms, stabilizer bar, telescopic shock absorbers and coil springs. Rear live axle with coil springs, 4 trailing arms, panhard rod and telescopic shock absorbers. Electric system, 12 volts of course, and then it just gives you the dimensions then at the end, like so. In some ways I can imagine it not being a bad vehicle for the climate in Canada, but I'm sure rust kills them off pretty quickly. Below that we get the little Lada Canada and the Lada badge there, and then very faint print. The only other thing I can see on this brochure is The typical brochure garb, the sort of get out clauses. Some equipment shown on models illustrated is optional at extra cost. Lada Canada reserves the right to make changes without notice or obligation in prices, specifications, standard and optional equipment listed, and to change or discontinue models. So there we go then, the Lada Signet for Canada. Only a little bit of a leaflet. Now, one thing I think I'm going to start adding to these videos, if it's relevant, I found this. Now, it's a Which magazine, key facts about 120 popular cars, car buying guide 1989. So it's certainly going to be an interesting one to look back at what, what was known, what people thought about the cars back then. Interesting thing about Which, it also shows reliability ratings because they did long-term tests and, they went a little bit further than just testing them as a brand new car. So I always found Which car buying guides quite interesting, and in some ways they were actually quite harsh as well when it comes to some of these models. So I will start including this in some of the brochures, just to have it's interesting just to look back, see what people thought at the time. Up here actually it shows all the key rings, but up here, if we just zoom in a bit further, it does indeed show the Lada key ring, interesting enough. So there is a little bit of Lada stuff in here. Last week, of course, we looked at the Lada Samara, so I'll probably look at what was said about these cars at the time. So if I just turn to the correct page. Now, of course, what we have to remember, we're calling this the Lada Riva again because this is a UK publication. So just bear that in mind. But like I say, it gives a little bit of description. We'll start with the Riva and then we'll might as well do the Samara as we looked at that last week as well. So what do you think? How do you think they've summed up the Lada Riva and what do you think they said about it? Like I say, it wasn't just a new car test, it was also reliability ratings as well, and I actually think there's prices in here which is interesting. Anyway, let's just move the camera down. It's not exactly kind, so if you've got a Lada Riva, I'm not gonna. I actually like them. I would love a Lada Riva today, so I'm not criticising these cars. We're just quite simply saying this is what was said at the time. So please don't be insulted by this. I always found Which was quite harsh actually. So they said it was not recommended. It was unpleasant to drive. It was uncomfortable. It was cheap, but depreciation was high. So it wasn't exactly a glowing report, was it? And then it goes into a little bit more detail. Now that was the 1500 that we were looking at today. This looks like it's been looking at the 1300 and 1200. So acceleration for the 1300 is fair. Earlier 1200, quite lively. That seems weird. Engine, hesitant, not very flexible. 1300, harsh at high revs. Gears, good, except for awkward reverse. Steering, very heavy, imprecise with little feel. Handling poor. Grip, readily lost. Stability, upset by uneven road surfaces. Side winds. Brakes, fair. Driving position and controls, poor. Most minor controls, good. Riva displays could be obscured by reflections. Early cars clear. Visibility problems with poor wipers, mirrors, visors. Seats lack support, especially in the back. Ride firm. Restless. 1300 jerky in traffic. Noisy, particularly when worked hard. Heating could be stuffy even in front, worse in back. Ventilation insufficient, linked to heater. So we can see there it wasn't many things to go for apart from it being cheap, to be honest with you. But this was a report for the 1300 Riva back in May 84 and the 1200 in January 77. Obviously we're looking at the newer 1500 in today's brochure, but I thought you might be interested in seeing that. There's a couple more facts and figures in here telling us things like the DIY is easy, getting spares some difficulty. 1200 and 1300 doing 32 mpg, insurance group 2. Depreciation is high. Top speed 89 for the 1200, 84 for the 1300, which is strange, isn't it? Acceleration for the 1200, 20.3 seconds. I presume it's a 0 to 60. And for the 1300, 21.4. Very unusual that the 1300 is actually slower. Reliability, too few members reporting, so I think it was kind of like members of which told people how they was getting on with the cars. Obviously not having much information from the Riva by the looks of it. But interesting, it does tell you the prices here for the cars. I do believe it does anyway. Let's have a look. So it looks like you get a 1200 for £3,495, going up to the 1600, which it didn't mention here, for £4,875, and then the 1300 estate, £4,295, and oh look, the 1500 estate, which we looked at today, was £4,995, and I presume that was in 1989. And then you got the used prices there. So the 1200L looks like a year old. It was already £2,450, and then by 1984 it was just worth £1,300. So like I say, big depreciation, particularly in that first year. So for example, the 1300 SL brand new was £4,245. When it was 1 year old, it was already down to £2,950. So if you wanted a new car, great, but obviously it was better to get them a year old or older. And then we just got a little bit of a small print of, you know, when these were updated, the different models, etc. Now, like I say, last week we looked at the Samara, the new improved Lada, which looked a lot more modern, didn't it? And don't worry, if you did miss that episode, I'll do a link at the end. So let's have a look what it said about the Lada Samara. And sadly, it doesn't get much better. So obviously it looks a far more modern car than the Lada Riva, but it didn't get much better in the sort of reports. So it's telling us it was a crude car in need of development and attention to detail. It goes on to tell us acceleration quite lively, engine harsh, vibratory, not very flexible, gears heavy, notchy, clutch heavy, snatchy, easy 70 miles per hour cruising, but down change to fourth often needed. Reasonable steering, enough feel, quite good handling and grip through bumps on corners, made the car hop about. Stability in side winds fair, brakes not progressive, slewed car in emergency, faded with heavy use, heavy handbrake, driving position acceptable, though steering wheel and gear lever awkward placed for some. Many minor controls are stretched and unlit, some displays inaccurate, visibility impaired by pillars, head restraints, vibratory mirrors, visors and juddery front wipers, uncomfortable seats, little room in back, bone shaking ride, noise intolerable, heating poor, ventilation poor with heater on. That was a report for the 1300 SL in March 1989. So a new report because obviously it was a much newer car. Gives a bit more information on the Carfax there. Things like DIY is mostly easy. And 33 miles per gallon now, insurance group 3. Says depreciation middling, but I guess it was a modern-ish car at this time. Later on, I would say the depreciation on these were very high as well. Top speed, 92 miles per hour. Acceleration, still very, very slow at 20.4 seconds. Too few members reporting on reliability. And the price is new. So it looks like a base model 1300L 3-door was £4,695. Goes all the way up to a 1500 SLX 5-door at £5,995. So it certainly was a bit more expensive, but it really didn't get much better, which is often why I always thought the Lada Riva was probably the better buy actually. Price used for the 1300 SL, £3,750 after 1 year. Brand new, they were £5,795. So even though it says middling depreciation, I would really say that's quite high depreciation actually. But there we go. I hope you didn't mind that little bit of an extra little thing looking at this Which Car report for 1989 in the UK. And like I say, I might add this to a few more brochure reviews in the future if it's relevant to the thing. It's always nice to see what were the people were really thinking about these cars at the time. And unfortunately for Lada, it's sad to say we didn't really think very much of them. So there we go. That wraps it up another one, but love to hear your thoughts, feelings about Ladas in generally in the UK and of course around the world. Always love hearing your thoughts, and I've got nothing bad to say about Lada, so I hope I've not upset anyone reading that Which report. It just gives you an idea what we thought at the time. In reality, I would actually love a Lada Riva, but thank you so much for watching today. Please do take care. We'll end as we always do by saying, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Will always be free to be a subscriber, so click that subscribe button now. And of course, if you enjoyed the episode, hit that thumbs up. I will certainly add last week's Lada Samara episode here if you missed it, and probably just a random other brochure up here. But we've got over 800 episodes now, so there is something for everybody. I'll end by saying please do take care. We'll see you again very soon. All the best and goodbye.